Chibuyaga Sude. A big tree that you had wished to be cut by an axe has been thrown away by the wind. So all those were fighting with EAC to get what we want, to get recognition and everything. I think we went ahead of them. Now we are on top. So EAC is going to be private sector led, and I believe everybody of us will be happy and enjoy it. So let us continue to build and strengthen our relationship with our implementing partners, government, and donor community. I thought it is important that I highlight key areas for Dr. Peter Masuki to deepen and strengthen in this new law. One, fast track the review of common external tariffs with a new structure that favor local content development. Build the regional value chains and promote industrialization. Fast track the CFTA and ensure our region takes the first mover advantage to trade with the entire continent by removing all outstanding NTBs and conclude the rules of origin requirements. Support country engagement strategies to enable our economies to benefit fully this ambition but rewarding trade agreements. 4. Strengthen the NTBs elimination committee and ensure those NTBs that are resolved should not be reinstated. 5. Continue to carry the heart of private sector development and advocacy by mobilizing funds for EABC to undertake the necessary research and advocacy-related works. 6. COVID-19 has had a devastating effect on our economy and livelihoods. Our services sector have completely collapsed. It is therefore important that the region develops a strong recovery strategy with pooled funds to support those sectors that were heavily hit by COVID-19, such as transport and logistics, including tourism. As a region, we are also witnessing the negative impact of climatic change and environmental degradation that is causing human catastrophe, including food insecurity. Working with our donors on EAC strategy on climatic change and environment should be promoted to address these vagaries of nature. The East African region is confronted with daunting challenges occasioned by COVID-19 and other structural issues that impact the private sector trade and competitiveness. These challenges include growing numbers of NTBs, geopolitical tensions and conflicts, information asymmetries related to protectionist tendencies and opportunistic interests, and incentives to dilapidated trade infrastructure systems. And a coordinated approach to address trade issues, and lastly, lack of development funds support the private sector to emerge from the devastating effects of COVID-19. It's important to underline that new taxes and charges are also being introduced. These are discussed to already struggling private sector. I submit.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, our board member, for a very articulated. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opening remarks, and we are very grateful. We have got, yes, we have got new issues which we needed to improve when we are preparing our matrix of the issues which we are going to present to SG. The climate changes, how we need to respond to COVID-19 pandemic. Those are very important. Now, I think it is my time now to become a presenter, and I'm going to present you various issues which actually came from our members, especially Apex body from the National Association and Manufacturer Association from the 5 EAC countries. While for Apex board, the issue we are coming from the 6 EAC countries. And when we are talking of Apex board here, we are talking the association, the umbrella association in the country. We are talking of Tanzania Private Sector Foundation for Tanzania. We are talking for Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA. We are talking of Rwanda Private Sector Federation, and we are talking of Burundi Chamber of Commerce, which is Apex board there. And in Uganda, we are talking of Private Sector Foundation for Uganda. For Manufacturer Association, we are talking of Uganda Manufacturer Association, Kenya Association of Manufacturer, Rwanda Association of Manufacturer. Tanzania, we are talking of Confederation of Tanzania Industries, and in Burundi, we are talking of the EABC. So our issues, we decided to group them in the following outline. The first one is comprehensive review of EAC common external tariff, harmonization of domestic taxes, harmonization of product standard, review of EAC rule of origin, compliance with Non-Tariff Barrier Act of 2017, review of the axle load capacity, development of EAC local content policy, and activation of EAC dispute settlement mechanism. On the comprehensive review of EAC common external tariff, and it is highest band rate. Actually, you find that the association or the private sector in the region recognize that the review is anchored on the Article 12.2 of the Customs Union Protocol, which provide for a review of EAC CT after every 5 years. But the last review was conducted in 2010. I think there is some mistake there. And the next review was marked to start from 2016. You can see it is about 16 years. It was about 6 years after the final review. And the main objective was to address inconsistencies as well as misclassification in the current EAC to enhance industrial development, increasing intra-EAC trade, eliminating stay of application, and review the sensitive lists. Those are many reasons for coming up with comprehensive review of EAC. Current EAC CT has integrated the industrialization principle with the multiple stay of application and the duty remission scheme on goods otherwise produced in the country. So you find the main challenge with our current EAC CT is where each partner state apply different. So although we call it common, it looks like it is not common because it's not applied uniformly by all EAC partner states, and this brings challenges to private sector. So all EAC partner state development. So this review started in 2016, but until now we have not finalized the review process. but we have made some development or progress where partner states have agreed to move from 3 tariff band, which formerly it was 0 for raw material, 10 for intermediate product, and 25, which was the maximum CT for finished product. But also we had a few tariff lines around 55, which we call sensitive product, which are attracting tariff rate from 35 to 100%, depending on the product. And mostly this sensitive product are agricultural product, where EAC seem to have a potential to produce those products. But now, partner states have agreed to shift from the 3 tariff band to 4 band, where we'll have a 0 for raw materials and some input which we find that they are not available in the region, 10% for intermediate product, and 25% for finished product, which maybe they are not available in the region, and the other maximum rate, which is around 30 or 35 for the product which are available in the region and partner state can produce. But there has not been agreement on the maximum rate, either 30 or 35. There are some countries which are pushing for 30%, and the other countries are pushing for 35%. So the recommendation from our members, there is need for partner state to agree on the highest band and the tariff line therein. I mean, where we need to agree on those tariffs, if it is 30 or 35, and we make sure that those products which should attract that tariff should be assigned to that category. On the harmonization of domestic taxes, we find that the Sectoral Council on Finance and Economic Affairs directed harmonization of domestic taxes in May 2012. And EABC followed up and actually did various stakeholders meeting, and one of them took place in 2019, where all our EABC focal point participated, and we agree as a private sector how we are going to move in terms of harmonization of domestic tax. The EAC went ahead and actually came up with a policy which will guide the process of harmonization of domestic taxes. This was done in 2018. But we have some challenge. Today, hardly any progress has been made. The actual harmonization process has not started. And I think the challenge is with partner state, because there is unwillingness for partner state to harmonize domestic taxes. And when we are talking of domestic taxes, we are talking of income taxes, excise taxes, and value-added taxes, as well as other incentives. And why there is some sort of unwillingness, because partner states want to maintain policy space where they can manipulate domestic taxes to address various challenges in the region, in their country, their specific country. But the main challenge from the private sector is the differential in the domestic taxes. For example, when you look at the excise, they are saying that it has facilitated illicit trade and discouraged intra-EAC trade and investment. But also it has encouraged misallocation of resources. Recommendation from our BMO is that progressive approach in the harmonization of domestic taxes need to be adopted, where we are going to start with excise duty, then value-added tax, then followed by income tax, and at end we end with incentives taxes. Another area is harmonization of product standard, where we are saying where our members are saying harmonized product standards help businesses to cut costs associated with the different national standard in force in EAC. And they say harmonized standard and regulation are easier to enforce, simpler for consumer to understand and comply, and more efficient for manufacturer to implement. EAC has an established structure to harmonize standard through specific requests from National Bureau of Standards and the private sector. The good thing you find that the EAC Committee on Standard actually also involve the private sector, especially manufacturer association representative. We have some challenge in terms of harmonization of standard, and private sector think that the harmonization process is very slow, because, for example, since we start establishing implementing the custom union in 2005, we have only managed to harmonize 1,500 product standard. And also, you find those standards, we are mainly focusing on 20 priority products, such as iron and steel, edible oil, petroleum oils, milk, vegetables, cement, sugar, and sugar confectionery. The focus was there. What is the recommendation from our members? Prioritize harmonization of the standard according to top 50 traded product in the EAC to give a wide coverage of product to the EAC intra-trade. Fast track standardization, accreditation, and conformity assessment. This is a new bill which is coming up to from the metrology, from the SQMT Act, which is existing now, which will be able to make sure that technical regulation and the standard are, which will make sure that technical standard, technical regulations and the standard are treated differently. So standards should be declared at the East Africa Standard Committee level. Currently, why we think there is a slow on the harmonization and adoption of standard, the standard needs to go all the way to the Council of Ministers, because it's a policy organ of the EAC. But we think that that process is long, so standard can be where we needed to lobby and advocate for EAC Council of Ministers to give the power of East African Standard Committee to declare the standard. On the review of EAC Rule of Origin 2015, we used to have a former EAC Rule of Origin which we started to implement the customs union from 2005 up to 2014. In 2014, actually, EAC partner state decided to review the rule of origin, and they came up with a new rule of origin. And the objective of coming up of this rule of origin was to address identified challenges that some sector were facing while trading in the EAC, support and enhance regional value chain. Also, the Sectoral Council of Trade, Industry, Finance and Investments directed that comprehensive review of EAC rule of origin will be undertaken after completion of the EAC CT review, because there is some relation between CT and the rule of origin. If you qualify for rule of origin, you will not pay the import duty. Due to rigidity in current rule of origin, some sectors, AG, edible oil, cement are unable now to access the regional market. Previously, we were using the rule of origin, which had a criteria of value addition or material content. So you can import some raw material from outside this region, you produce your product. If your value addition is more than 40%, that product can qualify for preferential tariff treatment within the EAC region. So the product will be considered as originating from EAC. But this new rule of origin actually is a product specific rule of origin. So you can't say that you import something from outside, you add value, and it becomes EAC or EAC originating product. It is actually it abolished the value addition, and it come up with other criteria like change of tariff heading, where, for example, you change the tariff of the product. You change the tariff heading of the product. You import something, you do some value addition, it change the the tariff, it become EAC originating. Or you go to specific, technical specific, like assemblers of car, you import some spare, or you import some unit outside the EAC, you assemble the car becomes East African and qualify for preferential treatment. But now, the biggest challenge has been edible oil and the cement sector. For example, in the edible oil, previously, you can import crude palm oil from outside the region. You produce refined edible oil. If it can qualify in terms of value addition of more than 40%, that refined edible oil from crude palm oil become East African product. So you consider it as EAC origin. So when you transfer from one country to another, you will not pay any tariff. But currently, the edible oil, when you look at the rule of origin, you find that it is stated that if you are producing refined oil, which you need to make sure that it qualifies for preferential tariff treatment, the raw material of that oil, edible oil, must originate from EAC. So those companies which were established previously and they were importing crude palm oil, when now they are refining their edible oil, they cannot enjoy tariff preferential treatment. That is the biggest challenge because most of the company invested based on the previous rule of origin. The same applied to cement. You find that there is some cement company which import clinker outside the region. Cement. So if we import clinker outside the region and you produce cement, that cement cannot enjoy tariff treatment or zero import when you transfer from your country to another EAC country. That's one of the challenges. So that is one of the another challenge is you find that under Africa, there is a lot of initiative in terms of creating regional economic communities. One of it is Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and also EAC, SADC, and COMESA. They have come together and they are creating tripartite free trade area. And when you look at their rule of origin, they are very progressive and flexible. Where, for example, the issue of edible oil, you can use change of tariff heading, but EAC you cannot use that. So that is that is another challenge. Another challenge is when you look at the directive from the Sectoral Council on trade, investment, and on trade industry, finance and investment, they directed that we needed to do that review of rule of origin after finalizing the comprehensive review of CET. And
we find that the review is taking long. You can see 5 years down the line, we have not completed the review of CD. So what are we recommending from, the recommendation from the members is that EAC first is needed to align the preferential rule of origin with other free trade areas, the tripartite and the African Continental Free Trade Area. Another is EAC to request the review of the affected product instead of the whole EAC rule of origin. So instead of having a comprehensive of rule of reviewing the whole rule of origin, which is only for which has existed for 5 years, we just look those products which have been affected, then we review those products. That is one area on the rule of origin. Another area is the elimination of Non-Tariff Barriers Act. This act actually was assented and become active in 2017 after a long review process of coming up with the act. And this act is very important in elimination of TB because it provides a legal framework for reporting, monitoring, and addressing non-NTB in the EAC. But we have some challenge with it. Partner stated before even implementing this act, they decided that there is some issues need to be addressed. So they decided to do some amendment of the act. But the amendment, although they are minimal, has taken very long. So you find that also, apart from doing the amendment of the act, also there were need to come up with the regulations which will operationalize the act. So the recommendation is needed to look in detail the follow-up mechanism provided in the EAC non-tariff area and borrow heavily from the other country like South Africa, EU. Here I think they are talking about SAP because we are talking of regional communities. EU with the view to improve the mechanism. But also it is important to have a separate reporting and the resolution mechanism for complaints using a more straightforward and consultation process at the bilateral level. Another recommendation which is coming from our member is all EAC Secretariat legal team should look at the act in detail and focus on reporting and the follow-up mechanism on non-tariff barriers. But also I think they want the amendment to be finalized and we start implementing the act. Another area is the review of EAC axle load capacity. And this actually came from Kenya, where EAC vehicle load bill of 2012 was assented to and adopted by EAC Head of State Summit in Arusha in 2016. And it is expected that the legal regime to govern vehicle load, the region will save over USD 1 billion in annual saving from reduced transport and the maintenance cost. Some partner states, e.g. Kenya, have started implementing the law and cargo exceeding 56 tons released through the railway. Kenya has some challenge in implementing the law where they say cargo exceeding 15 tons released through the railway. Regional road network in Kenya will need to be improved and upgraded to accommodate the axle load limit of 56 tons from the previous 80 tons for commercial truck playing the region. So actually what EAC decided to do is to come up with a new axle load where the truck can carry 56 tons.
to harmonize, because if you have a country where maybe their limit is 48, other country their limit is 56, your track face challenges. So country EAC come up with the maximum, which is 56. So all EAC partner states we are supposed to follow this, and even the axle load we are supposed to be 7 axle load. So Kenya is requesting each partner to be given a policy space to upgrade the regional road network infrastructure to accommodate the axle load limit of 56 ton and the maximum 7 axle load for commercial truck playing the region, and progressively implement the law. Next. Another area where you find even our board member, when he was opening the meeting, put some emphasis, was development of EAC local content policy. The community has put much effort in developing regional value chain. The EAC is working on developing its industrial capacity. Also, you find that there have been calls to uphold by East Africa, build East Africa, bear. But the challenge is there isn't EAC policy that guide local content with the region. The EAC local content policy should consider the following parameters. One is the issue of employment, training and skill upgrading, utilization of local inputs, technology transfer, small media enterprises development, research and development, presence of EAC originating product as opposed to imported product. You understand most of the EAC partner state actually has embarked in mega project like standard gauge railways, energy, road transport, but there is a lot of drive from private sector that the local or regional companies are not benefiting from, are not officially and effectively benefiting from these mega projects. Most of the mega projects are taken by foreign companies, and there is a little beneficial for local company. So they expecting this local content policy to make sure that the local companies actually participating in the development of this project. So the recommendation is EABC to advocate for EAC policy partner state to formulate EAC regional local content policy to guide the local content in the EAC. But also this one need also to make sure that we align with our procurement laws to make sure that the government starting source within the region. You start with your country. If the product is not or service is not available, then you go to the region. After region, then maybe you can opt for foreign. Because currently the way issues is most of our laws, especially even commercial laws, define national and foreign. So when you're in Tanzania, when you are talking of national, you are talking of Tanzanian companies. When you are talking of foreigners, you are talking of other companies. You can say Kenya, you can now you starting actually comparing Kenya and the Chinese because they are just foreign. So that's why one of the challenges. Another area which is very important for the private sector is the activation of the EAC dispute settlement mechanism. And you find it from the Customs Union Protocol, Article 25 of the protocol, provide for establishment of the EAC Trade Remedies Committee. This committee is very important in terms of dealing with dispute settlement mechanism, issue of rule of origin, issue of non-tariff barriers, and many countervailing measures and safeguard measures also. But this committee has not been established since the implementation of Customs Union 2005. And the biggest challenge was when the protocol actually was established, you find that the founding member of the EAC were 3. So the protocol was saying that the committee should be constituted by 9 members, 3 from each countries, which were Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya. But when the Rwanda and Burundi joined the community, it was found that it is necessary to change this article, where to make sure that members should come from the whole country of EAC. An amendment actually was made, but the challenge was the ratification, because the protocol is annexed to the treaty. So when you do amendment to the protocol, you must ratify. So the recommendation here is EABC to advocate for with the EAC head of state summit through EAC-SG to give time to those partner states that have not ratified to do so. EABC to advocate for operationalization of the committee on trade remedies to handle trade dispute. Because currently the way we are handling trade disputes, it takes long times. I can give you, for example, if we are dealing with an NTB, you need to report that NTB to the National Monitoring Committee. The National Monitoring Committee has to report that non-tariff barriers to the regional committee or the country which is instituting that NTB. Then from there, the country which is instituting NTBs may dispute your claims. So it becomes discussion and discussion. It reaches a time they accept, okay, we have seen the challenge, we are going to address. So it can take even 2 or 3 years, depending on the willingness or political willingness of the country to remove that NTB. But if we have that committee, the committee can sit and make a ruling that this is NTB, must be removed, given a text, because the committee has like a court power to decide. I think that was the end of our presentation in that area. So if you have any questions or clarification, we are here to accept that and we can make clarification. Karibu sana for discussion. Yes, Bwana Director, former Director.
Yeah. Thank you very much. My name is Philip Wambugu, and I was the director. I returned in 2000. I want to talk about a couple of issues from where I listened. The first one is the absolute. Yes. By 2017, we had estimated that the partnership at that point, because of the failure to implement in a timely manner the Acts of Road Control, they had lost in 2017 approximately $2.4 billion. Okay. Because of not implementing uniformly. Because you see, like you rightly said, one partner state cannot implement the Acts of Road. Yes. So then you reach at the border, you will have to offload, yeah, or to look for other means of, you know. So I think for EABC, yes, if we put that figure at 1 million, and let me tell you graphically, when we were designing the pavement structures, we were basing them on 15 years of life. There are so many roads in East Africa that are failing before even 6 years, before even 5 years.
Yes.
You drive along the Arusha River Road and you find extensive repairs
Yeah.
of the pavement structure of that road. That tells you that you are going to go back, and instead of resealing, you have to reconstruct. So for EABC, escalate this figure. That is when it will make it will impact any decisions at the council level.
Okay.
South Sudan does not even have the legal structure to implement the other road control. So when Kenya says states given time to progressively implement this thing, they will not implement it.
Sure.
The bridge across River Nile in Juba is completely collapsed. And you know, a bridge is not constructed as the main pavement structure. You have to give an alternative. You have to have an alternative. So that will cost them not less than $500 million to construct, even more. So what we're saying is that yes, let us affirm the need to implement the other road control, but not just the fact of the country losing $1 billion, but the penalties to the business community. Because then we are talking about non-uniform implementation, causing challenges of even determining the what we call the corridor standards for these vehicles. Now we had agreed that when the axle road control is fully operational, you will be circulating the requirements for the axle road control even to Chinese people who consolidate products. They should not come to Mombasa and be told to open their containers and they repack or rearrange everything. They should have those standards out there, but now you cannot circulate them because not all the countries are implementing common standards. So make it an issue. It is an issue. It is an issue. The railways are not as flexible as road transport.
Yes.
And even now, because of they are not continuous. I mean, if you consider the standard gauge from Mombasa to Nairobi, you have to do an interchange in Nairobi or in Naivasha, which wipes away whatever benefits you had from Mombasa. So I think make it a bigger issue by bringing more issues that are complicated because of non-implementation of the other road control. We had even, and I don't want to take too much time because this is your meeting, we had even agreed that the way bridges should be computerized.
Yeah.
So that when you weigh in Mombasa, you don't need to be held again at Jomo Kenyatta Way Bridge for hours. You should actually have what is called the the weighing motion system. So these are the things that the private sector should be looking at. Why have you delayed in computerizing the web bridges? Why have you delayed in registering these web bridges and establishing them within the infrastructure that is created in the law? So the 1 billion is actually a minuscule if you compare the paved roads in East Africa. And like I said, there are countries that don't have one beautiful road because of the damages. Then there was, of course, the element of the differentiation in terms of how the private sector uses the road. There are those people who are about 5% who are the ones damaging the road. It's not everybody, but everybody gets punished when the roads are damaged. So that is one point that is very good that you should be taking it up, but indicates the scope of the issues that need to be addressed. Now, I listened when you talked about the rules of origin and the CET, the review of CET, that EAC should now focus on selected goods and items that are affected by the rules of origin for now. But then when you adjust those, it may have implications on those that you never thought would come into play, unless you're very clear on which ones do not have a downstream impact on those that you're saying will not be affected. So I think it is also good to do that kind of thing. I also saw in terms of value addition, is it local content? The list that you have are about 15 items, maybe 10 to 15. Now you say that you ask the ministers to prioritize the local content. But given the fact that you even mentioned how long it has taken, and the fact that there is no coherent regional policy on it, you should prioritize on which areas. Should it be employment? Should it be on industrial something? Should it be? Because when you give the whole of that list, and it has taken that long to even get one commitment, it will just be a big shopping list. So look at what are feasible, what are the issues that you can look at. Now, the trade disputes, a very key area. But now, when you say that EABC will be advocating for the trade remedies committee globally, you imagine some of these are huge trade disputes. You have not put a cost to what the disputes are bringing about in terms of the business environment. Even when you go to the summit, what they want to see is that you are bleeding the private sector over $5 billion because of trade-related disputes, the loss of time, the loss of opportunities, investments that go to waste because of disputes. So I try to think that yes, you may have background to these things, but when you are giving a snapshot of the issues that you want the Secretary General or the Minister to take home, you show statistically, statistics don't lie. Tell the heads of states that for the last 3 years, because this committee has not been there over the last so many years, it is estimated. Because this is something that you want to be given priority. It is estimated that the region must have lost $10 billion, which would have contributed to employment creation, to national government revenues, to the welfare of Wananchi, to the health communities and all those things. So I think it is a good point, but you need to load it a bit with some quantification. Because at the policy level, a statement like this will not go very far. Because then, and also, it is important that anybody taking it away will be seeing the figures that you're talking about. And the impossible, even without naming names or even giving the companies involved, you can say in the mining sector, for example, this has happened. In this, we have this and kind of thing. So that it becomes a solid policy commentary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Karibu Mr. Kake for comment or question. Hello, good morning. I'd like to make a comment because I'm a transporter, so I go to all East African countries. Firstly, I'd like to comment that currently the road rate laws are similar in Kenya and Tanzania because we have all signed to the EABC harmonization. Tanzania has implemented, even Kenya, we have gone to the system. So originally Kenya had a KBM of 48, but today it is 50. So if you put a normal semi-trailer, same allowance in Tanzania, same in Kenya. So that's a good thing. It's actually working and it's started in all the countries. Number two, this business of strengthening, it comes with bridges. So I'm a civil engineer, so all bridges are designed to take a certain maximum load. By putting 56 tons, sometimes those bridges can't take that weight and they'll start getting structural damage. But in Tanzania, I noticed that wherever there are the old colonial bridges, they put a sign, maximum 10 tons. So on the highways, we are okay. But big trucks are not allowed to go into villages or into minor, we call them secondary roads. So trunk roads are all okay for semi-trailers, but we have to download into fusos to take to the villages. That is something, that comes with development. So if they find a road is very good, they'll have to upgrade the bridges. It costs a lot of money. Now, I have 3 criteria which I need you to put forward to the EAC committee. First, I need to, there are 2 criteria in road bridges. One is the GBM, which is the gross weight of the cargo plus the truck. The total specs if it's 50. So if I'm a transporter, I know my truck weighs 21.
I will always underload by 1 ton. So that because there's a variation in weight bridges along the route. If anybody goes over the GBM, then the fine should be high. But if you're below the GBM and you have missed out on the axle load, you still get fined heavily. It is costing us a lot of money, which we have to pass on to our customers. So what happens is if you put some cargo in a truck, it goes up a very steep hill. Sometimes the cargo, because it's plastic veneers, it slides back. When you go onto the weight bridge, you get at the rear of the truck heavy load, at the front has got capacity. So we should have an option to rebalance, we call it. So in Kenya, it used to exist before. If you're below the GPM, you turn the go out there, hire somebody, balance and check again, and you can go again without paying a fine. It's called an option to rebalance. This is something which will save a lot of money and hassle because, you know, our axle load is significant, but it's the GBM which is more critical. So I would request that the option to rebalance, that if you're below the GBM, you should be given the option to go into the parking and rebalance and carry on. And especially with transit cargo, we're having a lot of problems. If something slides in a transit cargo, we have to go to the TRA to cut the seal and then move the cargo. So we do it, you know, once you can't break the law, so you have to go get a TRA officer, he charges your fee, they give you a receipt. So basically, the option to rebalance should be there. The second thing, the fines are like in a straight line basis. It should be parabolic. So the 90% people who just make small mistakes shouldn't be heavily fined. But the ones who overload like 8-9 tons, they should be penalized with BIASAN. I mean, even the truck should be confiscated. So I think that the fine should be like a parabolic. That at the small end, the fine should be very small because it's only minor. You maybe gone 500 kilos over or something like that. Once you go over 5 tons or 10 tons, you know, then you know that you went over 5 tons. Okay? And the third thing is I would request that because of this harmonization, in Tanzania we used to allow super single tires, twin tires. And even all over Europe and all the countries of the world, they allow a super single tire like a twin tire. But because Kenya was not agreeing, so they went to Kenya where they reduced capacity. So basically, all my fleet, we have to underload by 2 tons because of they're not accepting the super single tire with an airbag. Tanzania, before we started, if you have an airbag suspension, which is the best suspension because it's not rigid, it's good on the road, and the super single tire, we used to get full capacity as 2 tires, twin tires we call them. So that thing has to be reviewed and come back because even those people in those Western countries, they're using technology. The twin tire is like obsolete technology, you know. Everybody uses super singles nowadays. If you go overseas, you'll see that. So those 3 points I'd like you to put into our agenda. Thank you.
Yes, this may be a good question to my brother. But the absolute law does have some allowance for
5%, and I thought the 5% was for the summation of the axle roads. That's what I was coming to. Because the GPM, I don't think they were allowing anything beyond. So there is no allowance. And that's why I see if there was a common application of this law, it will become the standard loading laws in East Africa.
Yes.
So that then you share a dividend with the guys who go down there. Because sometimes you might find a GVM is way below, but one axle is more than 20% overloaded. Because maybe you are carrying something that is completely, like you are saying, movable in the truck. So that becomes another challenge. Now, in terms of the arranging the road in the vehicle, I think EAC and the tripartite, they are coming up to agree that somewhere along the line that he is saying that if the GVM is below and if the axle road are not completely too overloaded, then, and I think even in the EAC law, there is that appreciation that the cargo can move. I mean, the road is not even. You have bumps on the road that are not in the design. So when this thing just goes over the road, then something can happen. So I think these are valid points. And one of the critical things is when you have the EABC with the Secretary General was
is to allow you to come in as observers in meetings of the ministers of transport. Because when you go to the summit and tell them about Abdul Awood, they will not, they will say we have specialized bodies. And it is also important that when these sectoral councils are meeting, you have even traders there, the trade people. Because those are the people who use these services that the minister was about. So I think you're on the right track. You have an ally now at the secretary. So make use of that particular opportunity. I think the treaty gives you the mandate as private sector to lead integration.
I want to add to the same what Mr. Kalke said, is this GVM and the axle weight is causing underloading. Underloading means, for example, we load paper bags. For example, I want to give a live example. Paper bags to the Aslam. A Fuso, when you measure the weight, it is allowed to take like 750 cartons of paper bags. But when it comes to axle weight measures, because of the volume, the weight is less, but the volume is occupying the space. Due to that, though front axle has a capacity to take the weight, we can't because of the volume. But we are underloading, we are loading only 600 cartons instead of 750. So we are losing some sort of business, and to send another load, it is automatically, the transport is becoming expensive. So it is suppressing the, trade value automatically as a whole. So GVM is allowing us to carry 750, but where axle measurement is wrong. There are goods which are like weight and volume. There is a difference between weight goods like Chuma. We can load, we can balance the axle weight and everything. But when it comes to volume goods, it is not possible. Thank you.
Okay.
Introduce please yourself.
Yeah, my name is Amani Telma from Taha.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I would like to highlight on a different aspect, which is the plant protection, harmonization of plant protection acts of the region. Because we've been making noises about harmonization of SPS standards, which I'm not sure if you've highlighted it. So it is something that we need to look at. We need to harmonize regional inspection procedures and regulations, so that if my product is inspected here by the plant health services in Tanzania, then I can move freely around the region instead of asking for an inspection again from Kenya. Yes. But also, under the same plant protection, we need to look at also pesticides and chemicals that are used for plant protection. Why? Because if a product is registered in Kenya, we have to re-register it again here in Tanzania. And if you look at the environment is almost the same. So harmonization of the registration of pesticides and chemicals used for plant protection, we need to harmonize them around the region. I think it's something that we need to emphasize. Yeah. And something else is about seeds. Seeds are also moving around the region. So if we harmonize the Plant Protection Act for the region, it means even seeds will be factored in. And then if they're registered in Kenya, tested in Kenya, we don't have to come and do the testing here in Tanzania. So that will allow free movement of seeds, or free movement of seed trade in the region. It is now with the, in Tanzania, they've started the issue of controls of genetically modified seeds. So when it comes now to certification, it has become a very big problem, and which is really affecting the
the issue of seed movement. And this is where you'll see that even this season, some places could not plant maize because availability of seeds was a problem. Inspection were very complicated. Yeah. So we have to look at that because if Kenya has registered, it is not a GMO seed, it has a DUS, then that can also be used in Tanzania. Let's harmonize seeds. And another challenge that we are facing, especially for avocado exports, is boxes. We import boxes from Kenya. Now, I understand that if a manufacturer in Kenya is gazetted in the EAC, then if we buy from that manufacturer, then the EAC certificate is enough to allow us import duty exemption. But in Tanzania, that is not the case. In the past, we used to attach the EAC certificate in the system, then we are exempted. But now it is not accepted. We have to do manual application of exemption. Once we issue with an official exemption from the Trade Facilitation Unit in TRI, that's when we can import, which prolongs the importation process. If I'm importing from South Africa, for instance, and I have a SADC certificate, then I'm exempted. So why if I import from Kenya, I'm not exempted? And these are packaging materials which are 100% re-export. So this is something we need to look at. The regulations, the regional regulations for customs allow that, but in practice, TRA is not implementing it, which is adding cost and time in terms of clearance. Yeah, those are my few issues.
Okay, thank you very much for the comments. Okay. I think my have a general response to former directors. When we are going to submit our memorandum, actually we need to go back and make sure that we have the statistics to back our proposal for justification of the proposal we are putting forward to EAC and the ESG. This should be not only on the axle load, but even the other issues which we think they needed to be backed up by justification and statistic. On Kake, I think we will request you to give it in writing because it's very technical somehow. The 4 issues which you have raised on the mass weight and axle load. On Mr. Tim from TAHA, I think the biggest challenge on the harmonization of the plant protection is because EAC currently, we don't have a sanitary and sanitary protocol. The protocol actually is there, but it has not been ratified by Tanzania. And once the protocol is ratified, we think the other issues which need to follow up will come up. So one of our issues which we are going to submit to SG is to fast track ratification of the protocol, because the protocol, once ratified and started and come to enforce, will pave away a lot of issues. Because when you look at currently, you find, for example, standard we are doing very well somehow because we have a platform on that area. But when it's come to these other issues, sanitary and sanitary issues, that's where we have the biggest challenges. Because even those regulators cannot meet at EAC level, they don't have the platform to meet because of the challenge. But you will see on the SPS, when we are submitting the priorities, the draft one. So you can also chip in and give us more justification on this area, because I see there is a lot of issues when it's come, like you are saying, movement of seed, movement of pesticide, a lot of issues in the agriculture sector and the other areas. So I think
That point, again, just a question of strategy. We have the NGO adopted agriculture and food security study. Yes, it needs to link the issue of phytosanitary and all these things that we're talking about.
yes,
In terms of these heads of state program.
yes,
That is, we are challenged in meeting.
yes,
Once you do that, it raises them. Because if the heads of state have adopted themselves
yes.
an agricultural food right, for the region, then you mark the challenges around the region. Then it means just to mark it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's go to another presentation now, because after we receive the issue from our members, we came up with a draft which we are going also to improve and continue improving, because the good things, we are going to have our own person in the EAC Secretariat. Even if we submit tomorrow this memorandum, I think we will get more time to continue submitting other issues backed by justification, which we are going to get from our members and the private sector in general. So we are asking those who are here, if you have any issues which you think we didn't include, you can still submit to us, and we will actually make sure that that issue now go to EAC for policy consideration. Okay, next. Now, you can see, for example, the issue of finalization, because I'm not going to go to detail of those issues we have already discussed, but I'm going to mention the issues and what EABC is actually recommending or proposing to SG. The first one was the finalization of the comprehensive review of EAC, Common External Tariff, and our policy proposal was for EAC Secretariat to coordinate EAC partner state in expediting the finalization of review of EAC CD by agreeing on maximum rate and start the uniform application of the revised EAC CT. So our expectation is the CT, the new revised CT should start this financial year. That's one of the issues. Another area is the harmonization of domestic tax in EAC. We are talking of excise tax, value-added tax, income tax. And we want EAC Secretariat to mainstream harmonization of domestic tax in its budget plan and use progressive approach in the harmonization of domestic tax, starting with the excise duty, value-added tax, followed by income tax and ultimatum tax incentives. Actually, we have identified one of the challenge when we are talking of domestic taxes. You find that EAC Secretariat heavily depending on development partner. So they leave entirely this process to development partner like GIZ to finance the process. So once development partner is not interested in that area, EAC Secretariat actually cannot move forward. Even currently, we have seen after GIZ moved from this area, they decided to approach IMF or something like that. And sometimes, because IMF, they are interested in guiding partner state as individual rather than regional, they don't have much interest in that area. Okay, On the Elimination of Non-Tariff Barriers Act, EAC Secretariat prioritized the process of amending the Act and the finalization of regulation to bring into force the Act. I think here we were moving forward somehow, but when COVID came, we had some challenge to review, to continue with the amendment through virtual meeting, but we think through virtual meeting still that process can continue. Review of rule of origin. Our proposal is Secretariat should request partners to revisit the decision of the Sectoral Council of reviewing the EAC rule of origin as a whole, and after the CT completion, instead we identify those products which have been affected and we review those products. Also, another proposal is the EAC Secretariat should initiate the process of aligning a preferential rule of origin with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and the Tripartite Free Trade Area. The last proposal in this area is the EAC Secretariat should take an urgent survey to identify the product affected negatively by the EAC rule of origin and have an in-place proposal ready for simplified EAC rule of origin, which can provide alternative criteria that can stimulate increase intra-EAC trade and attract investment in the area which are affected. On the dispute settlement mechanism, we are currently proposing Secretariat to prioritize the agenda to the EAC Head of State Summit, where they can set timeline to those partner states that have not ratified to do so, and also to set timeline of operationalization of the Committee on Trade Remedy to handle trade dispute, rule of origin, non-tariff barriers, safeguard measures, countervailing measures, and other issues. On the harmonization of the product standard, our proposal is the harmonization of product standard should be prioritized according to the top 50 most traded product in the EAC. We are moving from 20, now we are going to 50 most traded product. Also, EAC Secretariat should get partner states to finalize and implement the standardization, accreditation, and conformity assessment bill. This is a new act which EAC wanted to come up. You can see it is 2017, but up to now, we have not finalized it. EAC Secretary to connect partner states to develop regional technical regulation framework. EAC Secretary to guide all partner states in ratification of the sanitary and the phytosanitary protocol to pave way for finalization of EAC SPS bill. This is the issue where Mr. Tim was talking about, because we needed to have this SPS protocol. From there, we'll have EAC SPS bill, we'll have ESP standard, and ESP sanitary and phytosanitary regulation. So this will allow free movement of the plant as well as the registration and the other areas. Length process of standard harmonization should be shortened by declaring the standard at the East Africa Standard Committee level. But also I wanted to tell you on issue of the SPS protocol. At one time we had an engagement with Tanzania, and they told us the protocol was with committee of the Parliament Committee on Agriculture. They were discussing it before they submitted to the Parliament for ratification. So once Tanzania ratify, I think the protocol can start being implemented. You're from Tanzania, you can also push for that one. Liberalization of trading services. This is the other area on trading services or service sector. And our recommendation actually is for Secretariat to get partner state to finalize and implement the regulation on free movement of service and service supplier. The regulation had actually been developed, but the issue has been the adoption and implemented. Here we have the biggest challenge actually when we are talking of the free movement, especially movement of service supplier. Here we are talking of a person, for example, moving from one country to another country to provide services. It can be consultants or short-term services. The way these service suppliers are treated in some country is very challenging because they are treated as workers, while workers are permanent. But they are supposed to be treated as a service supplier, where you go, you provide the service for few days or a month, not more than 6 months, then you go back to your country. So they can be individual or they can be someone who is employed by the companies. But we have the categories of those service suppliers, which we have already agreed, but the implementation has not started. Also, EAC Secretariat to initiate the process of amending some of the provision of the EAC Common Market Protocol. Here we are talking of the Part F, where we are talking of free movement of service, to give effect of the regulation on free movement of service supply, as well as mechanism for the removal of restriction on trade service and revised schedule of commitment on progressive liberalization of services. Partner state actually on 7 agreed service sector, partner state have done a lot of reviews and come up with new commitment in terms of liberalization. But that issue of commitment has been there, no implementation. Because for regulation, for example, you have now to amend the Common Market Protocol, because the regulation on movement of service and service supply were not part of the protocol. So to put that annex now, you needed to amend the Common Market Protocol. Also, another area is EAC Secretariat to get partners to finalize and implement the revised schedule of commitment on progressive. This one I have already said. Initiate commencement of the negotiation to liberalize the remaining 5 service sectors. So you find that since we negotiate common market, we started with 7 sectors. Up to now, there is 5 sectors which we didn't commit. And private sector, now they want those 5 sectors also partner state to make commitment in terms of liberalization. And those sectors is like, for example, construction, which is very important now in the EAC, construction and related services, environmental, health, and social services, recreational, cultural, and sporting services, and the other services not mentioned. On the liberalization of the air transport service as per Yamoussoukro decision, the EAC Secretariat, I think director is here. It is one of his area, I think, when he was at EAC. We, at EAC, we tried to develop the EAC liberalization of air service regulations. Long time ago, the regulation was there, but it was not implemented because it was not adopted and implemented. Another proposal is domesticated EAC airspace through the provision of national treatment to EAC national air operators, passenger and cargo in all EAC partner states. Adopt the EAC single airspace agreement instead of bilateral agreement airs. We find that we have a lot of bilateral where Tanzania and Kenya, Rwanda and Kenya, Uganda and Rwanda. So we think those bilaterals should be upgraded where EAC as a region can come up with one agreement or multilateral agreement on how to do air transport. EAC partner state to exploit non-aeronautical revenue in order to lower the burden on air operators and passengers. On the lowering of the cost of telecommunication in EAC, we are proposing EAC Secretariat to guide and coordinate partner state to expeditiously finalize and implement EAC one network, one country model for the region. Currently, we have some development on few countries, that is Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, and South Sudan, where they're implementing this model. But this model was under Northern Corridor Initiative Project. It was not the EAC one. So now we want EAC to adopt that one, and the EAC has started some negotiation in order to bring Rwanda and Burundi. So Tanzania and Burundi, which we are not part of the Northern Corridor Initiatives Project. You remember during the coalition of willing, where some country went ahead and started implementing some of the project. So to bring other countries in board, that issues must be embraced by EAC, where Tanzania and Burundi will join this area, but they need to discuss and agree. Next, please. Free movement of workers. The biggest challenge here is issue on the work permit regime, where we have not actually harmonized classification of work permit and form, fees, and procedure. So we need the EAC to move ahead and come up with one regimes, because we have challenge. For example, you find some countries, they demand work permit fees for East African. Other countries have abolished, but they have abolished based on the bilateral agreement, where, for example, Uganda and Rwanda, if Rwanda, for example, have abolished, Uganda can say, okay, I will abolish for Rwanda. If Rwanda and Kenya have abolished for Rwanda, they can do. But now you come to Tanzania, for example, there is a fee for East African. And we are saying, in terms of harmonization, if one country has removed, why other country cannot remove the work permit fee? But that is not only the one, the challenge we are facing, but also there is also where you find that there is different conditionality of giving a work permit to East African. For example, if we go to Kenya, there is a age limit. You are not going to get a work permit if you are below 35 years old. So, in other words, you are telling youth they cannot move in the region. But also, in Kenya, for example, if you are employing East African, you must employ them based on the certain salary. I don't remember the US dollar, but I can check. So those are some challenges which we needed to harmonize in order to come up with a harmonized regime. Also, we are saying that EAC Secretariat should get partner states to review their respective immigration and labor laws to align them with the aspiration of the EAC Common Marketing Protocol on free movement of workers. On the COVID-19, we want EAC Secretariat to get partner states to adopt regional coordinate approach, including harmonized measures against COVID-19. This is new areas, and we're expecting to get a lot of recommendation from our members. Next, please. On Africa Continental Free Trade Areas and tripartite. As you are aware, in January, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area was started to be implemented. Unfortunately, EAC partner state, although they are part of it, they cannot start trading using this trade arrangement. Why? Because EAC has not submitted agreed tariff offers or concessions. What they have submitted in December actually didn't meet the threshold. We managed to submit trade tariff offers where we opted to liberalize around 70%. But when you look, the threshold is supposed to be 90%. The 10% is supposed to be 7% for sensitive items, which will take some time, and 3% exclusion, which will not liberalize. So instead of submitting 90% tariff offer, we submit 75 arrange that area. So we were given up to June to submit a 90% tariff offers. That is one of the challenges. Another challenge, some EAC partner states have not ratified the agreement. And here is Tanzania, for example, has not ratified. And if one of the bloc, because EAC is going as a bloc, has not ratified, I don't think the REC can trade, because all of your bloc must ratify the agreement. Also, some negotiation and meeting are still going on, and but also I want to say also some country has not also ratified tripartite free trade areas, and that's one of the challenges. So we say, because currently the Africa are negotiating trading services, and also are finalizing rule of origin, some part of the rule of origin. So we are requesting Secretary to ensure that they involve private sector in this negotiation. Another area is EAC mutual recognition agreements. We are proposing EAC Secretariat to guide and coordinate EAC partner state to fast-track finalization of EAC common marketing, mutual regulation of academic and professional qualification regulations. This will guide, will give the legal binding framework of those who have already, or of those professional sectors which have already agreed. All professionals which support business to be covered by mutual regulation agreement. Currently, we have engineers, architects, lawyers have also negotiated, but they have not signed. Midwives and nurses have negotiated, but they have not signed. So we have around 4 MRAs which have already agreed. Can I continue?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Proceed.
So what we are saying, we think all professionals which support businesses need to be covered by mutual recognition agreements. Because, for example, architect will have one challenges. Tanzania negotiated, but when it's come to the sign, they didn't sign the agreement. All EAC partners said to be part of existing MRA by signing and implementing the MRAs. EAC partner states should align national law to EAC Common Market Protocol and agreed MRAs. I give you a very good example. For example, although, for example, we have MRA in engineers, where you say if you are engineering in another country, and certified by a particular professional body in that country, we recognize you when you move to another country. But for example, if you go to Kenya, I'm just giving an example. If you go to Kenya, they say that you can't be registered in Kenya if you are not a member of that engineer, professional bodies. And that is the law. So some of the law need to change in order to make sure that this mutual regulation agreement actually can be implemented. Implementation of EAC commitment by Republic of South Sudan and admission of Democratic Republic of Congo. You know, South Sudan was admitted to EAC, but the biggest challenge is South Sudan has not started implementing EAC commitment, like in those areas in the customs union, common market. They had some challenges, you know, they are addressing the internal issues, but we think it is high time the EAC Secretariat led the Republic of South Sudan to expeditiously implement EAC commitment to allow free movement of goods, services, person, capital, workers, and right of establishment, as well as right of residence, as by EAC protocols. EAC Secretary to get part of the state to expediently finalize the process of admission of DRC as member of EAC. We are saying it will be a new change if DRC become member of EAC because of the potential DRC has. Even yesterday I saw that our president, Uhuru Kenyatta, one of the presidents from EAC, visited DRC the other day. So we need to push for these things to happen to make sure that DRC become one of us. Development of the EAC local content. I think we have heard from director how we need to approach this area. But currently we are saying EAC Secretariat should guide and coordinate EAC partner state in the development of EAC local content policy. On EAC trade and investment agreement with third parties, here we have some challenges where actually one of the challenges was under EAC-EU Economic Partnership Agreement, where EAC as bloc negotiated the Economic Partnership Agreement with the European Union. They finalized the negotiation. They initial the agreement. They even translate the agreement from English to Kiswahili and other languages for European Union. But when it's come to signing of the final signing of the agreement, country actually differ. Where you find, for example, Kenya, Rwanda sign, Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi didn't sign, and Uganda also delayed to sign. But now it brings some challenges in the region. And I think in the last summit, it was agreed that EAC can use principle of geometry, variable geometry, where some partner state can go ahead and implement the agreement. Because that principle allows those countries which are ready to move ahead, they can move ahead. But those who are staying behind, they have to agree that it's okay for other countries to move. But this, if is not implemented well, can bring some challenges. Because, for example, I'm just giving an example. If Kenya went ahead and started implementing economic partnership with the European Union, maybe after 7 years, when Kenya start now lowering tariff of products which are coming from Europe, it means one product which coming in Europe can come to Kenya at a different rate of CT while it will be charged maybe sitting in Tanzania and Burundi, which is not up implementing the agreement. And this will bring challenge because we are talking of EAC as customs union. That's one of the challenge. But so what we are saying EAC Secretariat to coordinate and guide EAC partner state to continue to collectively negotiate trade agreement with third party or foreign country as EAC bloc in order to preserve EAC customs union, common market, adopted EAC framework for trade negotiation and implementation of common policy in the field of external trade relation with foreign countries, and build trust among EAC partner states. Also, EAC secret to guide partner states which have separately concluded a trade agreement with third party to ensure that such agreements are not in conflict with EAC integration aspiration. Here, for example, we have another challenge. For example, Kenya also went ahead and negotiated with the UK on economic partnership trade agreement. For me, I understand why Kenya went ahead because although we are EAC bloc, but you find that partner states, they are categorized differently in the level of development. Kenya is considered as developed countries. The other country is considered as least developed country, LDC. And the LDC can use trade arrangement with Europe, like I've forgotten the EPA, everything but arms, where you can export it to Europe duty-free, quota-free based on that. But Kenya cannot use that window. So they have to negotiate with the European Union agreement which will allow their product to enter European duty-free, quota-free. EAC Secretariat to guide partner state to ensure that application of principle of variable geometry in implementing of EAC EPA by some EAC partner state does not create disunity and mistrust among EAC partner state, as well as disruption of intra-EAC trade and investment. Okay, those were some of the policy priorities which we have drafted based on our engagement with our members. So in case you have any issues, we welcome you. Okay, before, if you have not taken a tea, you can go and bring a cup of coffee or tea. We'll continue with the meeting. Karibu, Director.
Thank you very much, Joe. This is a good elaboration of the issues. If we can go to the first issue, that is on the CET.
Yes, sir.
If we can go to the, we can go back. Your cup of coffee. Yeah. That statement in terms of the recommendation.
Yes, sir.
I have a challenge with this phraseology. Because when you say EAC to coordinate EAC partner states in expediting whatever.
Yes, sir.
Now, you make the problem look that is coordination. You know, but a direct reading of this statement sort of gives the impression that the challenge is coordination, which it isn't. If I were to reconstruct this sentence,
yes,
and because you're not writing to the Secretary General, this memorandum is to go to the Council. You should be asking the Council to expedite the adoption, not even the negotiations, because the negotiations can take years. You want to expedite
the adoption of the revised CET and have it implemented by the 1st of July.
Thank you.
So that you don't, you remove the object from the secretariat and the coordination to the actual what you want done. Now, I look at many areas where you're seeing the secretariat to guide. It will never work. States come with their own sovereignty. In fact, one of the biggest problems, now I can talk without diplomatic, the biggest challenge is sovereignty. States come and hold other states for 5 years at ransom. Not ransom, but the process sometimes is not time bound. It's exactly what we're talking about there, the road control. I mean, you have already agreed, you already have an East African law. The treaty says an East African law has priority over national law on the same item. And you stay for 5 years without implementing, without a time frame. So what you should be looking at is to stick to time frames that are set for some of these things. So you're looking for time frames. And so the language of guide, at least bring it to coordinate rather than guide. Because guide, you guide the state which is so very and they come here with already formed state positions. So how else do you guide them when they have already been guided? So use the language that is. But whenever you are saying guide, refer to the council because the Secretary General will see this. The chair of the council will perhaps be there. He needs to see what the private sector is talking about. So there are several areas. The mutual recognition agreement. If you tell the states to harmonize their laws to facilitate the agreement, that one is bringing back the process. It's like food which is boiling, you put them full water. Because the mutual recognition agreements were to fast track the ability of workers to offer services.
Yes.
So that in that particular sector, they come in and they sign, even those engineers associations. But when they go back, then they say, the law does not allow us to allow a Tanzanian to come and practice engineering in Kenya. Why then did you sign the mutual recognition agreement? Now, the other issue is, for example, in road construction, he knows the surveyors, the materials engineers, we don't have too many.
Yes.
So if you have a multinational project,
Yes.
you'll have to have two surveyors rather than one. You have to have two materials engineers rather than. So the cost of construction, and that eventually goes to. So what you should be fighting is not to review the law. No, they will never be reviewed. Is to ask the council to direct that the mutual recognition agreements start being implemented where they are signed. Then they can come back and say, we can't do this because of this and that. And then the council starts there to resolve what are the outstanding issues. Because these are the documents in our books, and I can say this openly, that make us look not a very serious corporate that we sign documents that we then later challenge to national stakeholders, national this, national and national that. Now, the other issue is the one network is, I don't want to monopolize your discussion, but we are trying to get the one network area as a policy was East Africa.
Yes.
It was East African community. The heads of states adopted and even gave a deadline to implement the one network area. Not one area network, because one area network is not a different principle, but one network area where the provider have one. Now, it took another 6 months beyond the deadline for when this thing came, the cow, the coalition of the region.
Yes.
They then said, what are the low-hanging fruit that we can implement between ourselves? So one of them was one network. That time that Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, and South Sudan adopted it. And within 6 months, traffic between these countries had grown by 500%. So the loss in terms of the marginal pricing, was overtaken by the benefits of larger demand. Because if it was costing you 50 cents to go Rwanda from Kenya, and it costs you 10 shillings from Tanzania or 20, it then means you make more money when you have 50 cents times a million people than when you have 20 shillings from 10,000. So this was the thing. But very fortunately, I have read some that Tanzania has already undertaken internal consultation and is ready to implement the one network area. So it is only Burundi now, and I am sure if 5 countries are implementing the one network area, even Burundi will come on board. In any case, the question that Burundi had is that when we were adopting this one network area, they had an alignment, I think, with France for the transmission of the signal to the outside world. So, and I think they overcame that, and therefore it will be easy to get Burundi on board. So instead of asking for the EABC to guide it to adopt this, it's already adopted. And it should then recognize Tanzania has already come on board, which is a bigger market for telecommunications. And therefore, what should be done is to fast track this in Tanzania. You should be asking, because the businesses are losing. The businesses are the ones that use these services. They are losing. So, last time when I made a presentation at the East African Business Summit, I proposed the establishment of a specialized body for the private sector. And the private sector said no, we are doing that work. But then when you look at who coordinates the private sector, the EABC secretary is one of the smallest departments. The even director is one of the smallest. One person coordinating construction, mining, environment, and what he talked about, packaging and all. Only one person. So, because that issue was not, the council should then be, you should be asking the council to strengthen the private sector office that coordinates private sector matters at the EAC. And you can even give a structure. What are the key people? Because most of the issues affecting private sector are legal. Most of the issues are technical. So you need more than one head in that office. The other proposal that I did not see, and which I think is very critical, in many regional economic communities, the private sector has a forum where they meet the Council of Ministers. Because the private sector here meets the heads of states. And the heads of states, when they receive your memorandum, they then bring it back to the Council of Ministers. It would be much easier for the youth lobby, the chair of the council, to create a session, a meeting with the business sector representatives or the private sector before their council meeting. So it could be a day before, it could be an afternoon before, but what you want is a direct interface with the council, so that you leave your issues at the level where at least the ministers individually have listened to you. So even if the head of state asks, have you heard about this thing about the private sector, they can easily say yes, but we shall take it up. But now sometimes the things come from above and the ministers say, no, they have not been brought to us. And you know also, the framework for consultation between the private sector and the civil society and the country is the dialogue framework. You know what it is. It is so deep, so deep, so deep. Then when you come up with the recommendations, you take them to the Secretary General, to then take them to other units, then to bring them in the council process. It will never work. So if you are asking something, is to look at the CBA, for example, how can you shorten the cycle of consultations? Because you consult up to the apex, you even have the SDs forum, but after that, you bring this thing back to the council, and the council directs whatever you have agreed to then the small private sector office. Finally, if this is to be a memorandum, you should prioritize start with the most pressing and then going down. Start with what requires less work, less money for it, for you to have at least some outcomes. When it is like this, it is going to be, because even liberalizing East Africa, do you see this liberalization of air services regulations? We agreed on 8 items. The only item that brought problems was the ownership clause. Who should benefit from the liberalized air transport market? What sort of ownership structure? So at that time, some states did not have a big airline. So down the line, every state now has at least a sizable framework of airline. Then you also find that we have now moved away from the regional market EAC to a continental platform where some of the airlines in EAC have committed to liberalize for everybody in Africa. So you'll be wasting more time going back to the regulations, and the regulations now have come back to be renegotiated, all of them. You will never move. So the best is to look at how you can engage the council so that we don't have what are called reversals, policy reversals. Because policy reversals are the ones affecting investment. You have invested in something, then there is a policy reversal, you have to exit or incur huge losses. So these are my few comments. So that when you look at the document now, we had agreed earlier that you need quantification. You need these recommendations to show the structures in terms of quantifiable units. You also need to show the latitude that the council has and the SC has in terms of who is the actual person. Just like I have told you, in the past, you have to the council to expedite the process of CET, not the secretary to coordinate. No. But good points, align them in terms of prioritization, factor in the quantification, remove the language of guide, all those things. And I have said that if I were to recommend something that would help the private sector, is to have a session created in the timetable of the council ministers meeting, so that they meet the private sector. And that you can lobby even the heads of states that we are looking for a forum to be having with the council of ministers before their council meeting. That's an important point. I submit.
Okay, thank you very much, Director. I think, is there any clarification or added points you would like to add? Yes. I think I have two issues here. One is on the free movement of workers. I'm not sure if my issues are mostly operational or they will be at policy level. But one thing that I would like it to be harmonized in the region when it comes to free movement of workers. You said earlier that individual countries, sometimes they have their own treatment. As much as there is a common agreement, regional agreement, individual countries have their own ways of implementing it. And one of the cases that we've encountered here in Tanzania is in the application of work permits. First is the fees, which they've categorized for internationals and then for East Africans. While in some other countries, such fees are not there. But secondly, there's an issue that they've recently introduced of verification of certificates by the Commission for Universities, which I think is not correct, because
if I am bringing in a skilled worker, for instance, from Kenya, who has worked in a particular area for over 25, 30 years, I'm not necessarily looking for certificates. Someone will have a vocational certificate, but I am interested with the skills. And then when these professors at the Commission of Universities see this is a vocational certificate, the feedback that I'm getting is there are more qualified people in Tanzania who can do the job. I'm not interested in someone who has a master's in transport. I'm just looking for someone who has a skill to help me load a 747 full and who can help me maximize the cargo. Someone with a master's or a PhD cannot help me with that, you see. So there are areas that we need really to emphasize. There are things which, for us as the private sector, who really needs this movement of workers, are not important. Yeah, we are looking for skills. We are looking for particular skills that are not available locally, and this is why we are bringing in talents from outside. Secondly, on air transport liberalization, I don't know how the implementation can be gone about, but I would look, for instance, in my interest where I want to move cargo around the region and probably for consolidation to take it outside the country. The cost of transporting cargo within the region, say if I want to consolidate fish from Entebbe, bring them to Mwanza, and then airlift the entire cargo to Europe, that regional cost of transportation is very expensive. In fact, if I airlift cargo from Dar to Nairobi, and the same cargo, I'm lifting it from Dar to Amsterdam, the cost is the same. You see, so these are the things that, as private sector, we are very much interested in. The issues of ownership, probably these are the things politicians are interested in, but we are interested with the practical things that make our businesses move, and I think they have a direct impact in the economy. Because it is not necessary that I have a big aircraft coming to Kilimanjaro daily, while I can have a small feeder aircraft that can collect from Kilimanjaro to Nairobi to feed a big aircraft at the same cost or at a lower cost, which will make my product competitive at the end of the day when it goes to the market. These are my two issues.
Yes. Another? Okay.
I agree with. Maybe just to comment on this last point.
Yes.
Because it's important to be. It's good we deliberate on some of these issues because before we take them to the higher level.
Yes.
But when it comes to air transport liberalization, and you recall that in some sector you had discussed about liberalization of services.
Yes.
This you know, it has not you talked about environment, it's not yet, you talked about this and that, including even construction, even aviation, it isn't. The reason why aviation is moving now is because we have existing bilaterals. But these bilaterals are so limiting because they also have volume restrictions. They have capacity restrictions. That you can have a whole brand new aircraft in East Africa that will go from Dar es Salaam. It connects Entebbe and it comes to Nairobi. And then it is denied traffic rights from Entebbe to Nairobi. A brand new aircraft, moving with clean seats, pilots, cabin crew and all those. And then you denied the right even to carry people from Entebbe to Nairobi in East Africa. So you end up having and it is the same thing affecting truckers. You have a truck hired from Dar es Salaam all the way to Bujumbura. But from Bujumbura, because of the unions and all those things, it has to come empty. The only place it carries something is Bukoba area where it carries banana. And the two turners coming back with an empty lane. Why would costs not be high? You go to places like the US, because they are 52 states in one federal government, they don't have, they even have cabotage. You hire a truck in Boston, and you go to Texas. You leave it in Texas at some point. So you don't pay, nobody charges you for returning that, because then somebody else will call and they use the same truck to go to Mexico, to go somewhere, to Mexico and somewhere else. So again, the symptoms of high cost of transport that you see, you then, air transport, for example, it has been done in terms of literature, and it's shown that half of the cost of air transport are government taxes. Taxes on fuel, taxes on maintenance issues, taxes on this, taxes on landing, and all those things. So when you say resolve the cost issue, one of the things is to tell the government this is an important service that supports industrialization, that supports this and that. Reduce taxation. So if you look at the air ticket, you'll find that half of what is the people around are government taxes. So when you address government, who are you addressing? You are addressing the same government to remove these taxes. And they tell you, no, we tax this sector because we need money for education, we need money for... So it is a negotiation. But like you're saying, we need to build a common market so that we see an airline, like he has just said, if it is going from Entebbe to Kigali and coming to Kilimanjaro, and then you deny that aircraft rights to carry passengers from Kigali to Kilimanjaro. I mean, you will never break even.
Yeah.
So I think this is what you're saying. Let us look at these issues and see where does the problem lie. Because if you tell the council that the airfares are high, reduce them, they won't, because then these are exchequer issues. The minute the Minister for Finance reads this budget in May, that cannot be changed unless there is a cabinet memo tender to Parliament to change to it. They will tell you we shall adjust it next year. Next year comes. So there are major issues, and I agree with private sector that is why I'm saying create a forum for Council of Ministers, so that the same things we are vibrating here are given to them directly. Yes.
Okay.
My name is Anthony. My English is not good. I want to try the English and the Kiswahili.
Okay.
I'm from Burundi. This is the first time to come to this meeting. I have some issues I want to kuongea kuhusu free movement workers in East Africa. Sisi kama Burundi tuko na shida ya transport kutoka Dar es Salaam to Burundi. The transport is very high for the truck. I asked for the truck. And there is some project from the project EABC project for making the railway. Now, the problem which we meet is to give us the wagon from Dar es Salaam to Kigoma. And you use also Lake Tanganyika. Made that project now is taking around 4 years. We are waiting about that to finish that program, that construction, and something is not now going to. Okay, now it's better to help because the Lake Tanganyika, he has too many countries. We can push the government to push the businessman to bring the vessel in the Lake Tanganyika and to make facilitate the transport from Burundi to Zambia, from Burundi to Tanzania, from Burundi to Congo. Yeah, and we have also another problem about the air freight. You know, in Burundi, we don't have transport air flight. Lakini Tanzania ilikuwa imefungua njia ya air Tanzania. Now is closed because of the COVID. Now I think they can make government wanaweza kuongea alafu tuone vile wanaweza kufungua hiyo air irudi tena. Tuko na shida tena kutoka Lake Tanganyika. Tuko saa hizi sijui kama mnajua kama hiyo shida Lake Tanganyika imemove inapanda sana na inaanza kuvunja hizo manani port. Kama Bujumbura port saa hizi iko juu, iko chini kabisa, maji imeanza kufika juu. Sasa ni shida tuko nayo. Alafu kitu kingine tuko na shida ni Dar es Salaam. Dar es Salaam walitupatia siku kidogo ya kama unafikisha mzigo kutoka Port Dar es Salaam kwenda Burundi ama kwenda Rwanda ama kwenda wapi, walitupatia kama ni 7 days. Nafikiri kama ni 7 days, lakini hiyo ni siku kidogo kwa sababu ya hii corona imeingia, corona 19. Watu wengi hawana uwezo ya kupata hela haraka sana, inabidi waongeze siku. Hiyo kitu watusaidia kabisa. Na maneno yangu iko hiyo. Asante.
Okay.
Let me just make another small point, which I think is important. If we go to South Sudan, where you have been visited South Sudan, to guide the Republican expenditures and implement EAC commitments to allow free movement, whatever problem. Now, if you go with a statement like this, it can be seen as offensive to South Sudan. I think what will be more important is to ask the Council to support South Sudan in the implementation of these things. Because when you say they are not implementing, then it's accusatory. But it's more powerful if you are if the ministers see that the private sector is asking for support to South Sudan to expedite. That becomes a more sellable recommendation, which is important. And then you say, given the importance of South Sudan in terms of the private sector operations in the region. So because if you are seeing to use an angle that is sort of, so the best is bring the council to realize that there is need to support South Sudan implement the EAC. Thank you.
Okay, I think we are done. We have received the new recommendation, which we will use to improve our matrix of the memorandum of issue, which we need to present to EAC SG. I think we are going for a group photo, and from there I think we proceeded to launch. Particularly, do you have to end? Okay. We are requesting those people who are online, they can put their comment into our chat room or send us the recommendation. We appreciate a lot for participating through online, and I think today we are done. We are going for a group photo, and from there we'll proceed to launch. So on behalf of the EABC Executive Director, I would like to thank you very much for participating in this technical session, and we are ensuring you that we'll continue dialogue, because submitting this memorandum is not an ending process, but I think it is beginning. We are going to request more information, more issues from private sector, because we want to have a
engagement, a continued engagement between private sector and the EAC. Thank you very much.
Patrick, where is the photo?